save his Devo because the rest of the night my dad's coming. Okay. And I'm gonna, like Zach's gonna be singing, I'm gonna do the Devo. And I forgot to tell Ashley that we had decided to. That's okay. Please let him know. And whatever he's got prepared, tell him to hang on to it because if somebody comes and says they can't do it, I'm going to call on him. Be at the top.
All righty, good morning. Appreciate you come and study God's Word. Appreciate you being here. It's encouraging. Today is the first Sunday of our new quarter. Through a study that I did with the teen class out of a book we got from the people we get all our Bible class material. They had a book. It's called Encountering Jesus. And we did that study in the teen class. Really enjoyed that study. So going to do that study in here. Won't be exactly the same as we did in the teen class, but I hope you guys get as much out of it as I did. I know we had a lot of really good discussion in the teen class over these things, but basically what it does is looks at different times when Jesus encountered or interacted with different people, and some are positive results, positive outcomes, and some unfortunately are negative. And we can look at how Jesus handled those situations, and obviously learn a lot from how he handles people and how he got the results he got. And one thing I want to do or try to do, or the goal to do, is at least identify one skill or trait that Jesus used in his interaction that made him successful or made him have an impact on the person he was dealing with. Today we're going to do a little kind of introduction about encounters or interactions with people, but our lesson text today is going to come from Luke chapter 7, and Jesus is dealing with the widow from Nain, who had lost her son. So we'll look at that one, and just so you're kind of prepared for the upcoming weeks, I'll let you know what we'll be studying the next week. Next week, though, we won't have this Bible class. Elias Roque will be here from West End and the Spanish congregation. That's a mission work we support, so I believe he'll be giving a report for Bible class on their work and then preaching for us Sunday for the worship service. And then we'll also, just a reminder, I believe, be having a potluck lunch following next Sunday morning service.
Actually, that's the 19th.
Oh, it's the 19th?
Yeah.
That he's coming?
Yes.
Okay, so 2 weeks. 2 weeks. I apologize. I'm already giving you false information. I've been up here 5 minutes, so we're off to a great start. No. So 2 weeks. So next week, as long as we get through this text, which Sarah Beth will testify to, that sometimes I don't get through all my lesson material. Usually it's because the teens talk too much. No, I'm just kidding. No. So next week, Lord willing, we'll look at Jesus' encounter with Nicodemus. That's an extremely powerful interaction, and we'll talk in depth about what went into that interaction. We'll also look at his interaction with the woman at the well, and his interaction with the paralytic. I know he dealt with several paralytics, but specifically the one who was lowered in through the roof to meet him. So those are the ones upcoming, and I'll remind you of those in the specific passages we'll be looking at, so you can kind of study and have some thoughts prepared. With that in mind, please feel free to make comments. Questions are not allowed. I don't handle those. Those are all referred to Dan. I'm just kidding. You can ask questions. We'll do the best we can to answer them. But this is our class, so if I want you guys to get as much out of it as possible, and if that means we go down and get off track of our study, as long as we're in God's Word and being encouraged somehow or learning that more, I consider that a success. So please, any comments are appreciated. So please feel free to jump in. I think that's pretty much what I wanted to cover before we got into it. Like I said, we're going to start off by talking about a little bit about encounters in general. And I was interested in hearing from you guys as to what goes into the outcome of an encounter or an interaction. What factors play into how successful interaction goes, or how just in general the interaction will go? Any ideas?
How does it start?
Okay, so do you mean, can you be a little more?
The way an interaction starts,
Mm-hmm.
especially if it's your first interaction with a person.
Okay.
100%.
So your history with the person?
Yeah,
Okay.
Even if there's no history, I think
Yeah.
that beginning interaction the beginning of an interaction is even more important to the overall effect, because
Mm-hmm.
that's the first impression.
Okay. Okay. Yep. Keep going. I didn't mean to cut you off. I'm just going to my list right now.
Can be overturned by effort. There's a reason people say it all the time: first impressions stick with you.
Yep. Very true. But, I'll come back to you. My mom raised her hand. I got to go to this one first, or I'll get in trouble. Go ahead. Yeah.
Yeah, well, people are calm.
Okay. Demeanor.
Yes.
Okay. Keeping track of these because we're going to use them later. Donald. Oh, okay.
No, he started out with how it begins. I kind of think about it from how it ends. As long as my hope is, whatever encounter I have with someone, they leave with some sort of encouragement. I leave that situation with something that, they're encouraged by.
Okay. How do you want me to classic? It's Missourians only. I'm just kidding. Go ahead.
What's going on around you, the climate and the atmosphere
Okay.
of the meeting?
Okay. Circumstance. Donald, how would you want me to sum yours up?
Encouragement.
Okay. Result in encouragement. Something like that. Okay. Okay. Anybody else? Yes.
Both parties' attitude coming.
Attitude. Okay. Good. Brian.
What words are spoken and what words aren't spoken.
Okay. All right. Anybody else? Those are all really good ones. I appreciate that input. Some of the ones I had on my list, the first one hit off kind of what Aaron was saying. Relationship. How well you know that person. Maybe the interactions you've had with that person in the past is going to have an impact on this current interaction, right? Whether that be kind of like Aaron said, first impressions, are very important. You know, if my first time I met this person went well, then I'm probably going to have a more positive mindset that this second one will go well, and vice versa. If it didn't go well, I might have negative thoughts on how it'll go. So the relationship, and I think one reason God is very clear that we as brothers and sisters in Christ are supposed to build those relationships with one another and be close. And I think one reason for that might be, how easy is it to have a difficult conversation or a deep, meaningful conversation with somebody you don't know and have no relationship with? You see where I'm going with that? If we have those relationships built before those arise, it doesn't necessarily alleviate the hardship of that conversation or that interaction, but it can make it easier, right? And it can lead to a more successful interaction. If anybody has anything on these, please chime in. Second one, attitude. I forget, but I feel like somebody. Oh, I'm sorry, Dan.
Okay.
Let me scoot this back a little bit. My peripheral.
We have to remember, I think one thing we have to remember, and certainly we're forming an impression of the other person, and we're waiting to see what first impression they're making.
Yep.
But we can't forget that we're making one as well, especially if it's not someone we know. And I think no matter what the circumstances are, there's some type of motivation to have an interchange. There's some type of purpose. So what is our purpose? And are we trying to fulfill that, or does it go off into a different direction and the purpose is not achieved? And I think something we have to be aware of, I think we're always aware of it on some level in our mind, of all the nonverbal messages that we're sending and that we're receiving.
Sure.
So if we're aware of how we are, then we are certainly going to be aware of the other nonverbal things the person sending to us. So though there's a lot in communication. It's been said, not original to me by any means, but a human being is incapable of not communicating. We are always communicating, whether we say anything or not. The way that we hold our, whatever expression we have on our face, how we're holding our body, whether we're giving our undivided attention or whether we're splitting our attention, whatever it is, we're giving off a signal and we're giving off communication constantly. And that's important to remember and think about. Most people probably don't think of it in that way, but we should, especially as Christians. Am I giving this person the idea that I'm putting Christ first in my life by the way that everything about my communication with them, the way that I hold myself, my nonverbal cues that I'm giving them, and so forth. No matter what they're giving to me, I need to give back what I want them to give to me. That's what Jesus taught in Matthew 7:12. Sometimes we look at that and we think that's only actions, but it's everything. It's how we communicate, it's how we interact, and on any level with someone, we should do it the way we would want them to interact with us, no matter how they're treating us. And that's difficult at times, certainly. But I think that first interaction that you have with anyone is so filled with so many things. There's so many factors in it, and we take them in without really thinking about it much. But then later we may run that interaction back in our mind and then form even more impressions of that person and that interaction. And then how many times have all of us said, man, I wish I would have said this, or I wish I would have said that, right? So I think if we go into, especially if we know what's going to happen ahead of time, we go into an interchange. I am a big proponent of multiple different scenarios in your mind, especially if it's a difficult conversation. It could go this way, it could go this way. If it goes this way, I still wanna give them whatever purpose that I'm trying to have the conversation for. So it's my 2 cents. I'm
Yeah.
done.
Very good point. Very good point. And you know, the point about communication. I mean, think of communication. I think if you say communicate, I think we automatically think talk. But I don't. I've seen it before. I don't remember what it is. But the amount or the percentage of communication that's done verbally is a very small amount. You know. So that's a very good point. Was that a flinch or thinking? Saw a hand. No. Okay. All right.
Steve, I
Oh,
was
sorry.
thinking about what you said with, usually the people we have deeper conversations with, we know better. I find that that's not always true.
Okay.
And the reason I say that is some of the fastest and deepest conversations I've ever had have been in the first interaction with people that are all in on Christianity or all in on matters of homeschooling or all in on matters that when you have a lot of things that are in common,
Sure.
you can get very deep very quickly. And we just had that happen recently when we were visiting a congregation outside of Branson. Met a couple and their kids, and our kids apparently have been in PTP class together, but we very quickly went into a very deep conversation that we don't have with people that we've known longer. And so I think it just depends on the situation and what you have in common, what's important to you, will make a big difference in if you're gonna have a deep conversation or not.
Mm.
As if you're not on the same playing field in a lot of things that really matter, then you're probably not gonna have as deep a conversation.
Yeah.
Can I piggyback on that? I agree with that to a certain, definitely. And I think it's also, if they find out, if you're visiting congregation, they find out what your role is, then that conversation goes very deep very quickly, depending on the circumstances that they may find themselves in and want advice about. It just depends on so many things. Someone finds out you're a law enforcement officer, that conversation could very quickly turn to, hey, I've got this situation, can you give me some advice on it? You know, so or if someone's in the medical field and someone has a medical condition they want an opinion on, I mean, the list goes on, just depending on the circumstances and what that person's going through in their life. So yeah, I agree that conversation can turn very quickly into something more serious. But I do believe there's only a certain amount of people that you let into your inner circle, like the ones you fully trust. And that I think that's not unique to anyone. I think that happens in our life. We have a certain amount of people that we feel like we can pick up the phone and tell them absolutely anything going on in our life, where we wouldn't do that with just anybody.
Right.
How do you get them communicating though if they don't want to?
Well, I mean, that's a good question. I think, you know, by your actions, and you build that trust over time. I think the more trust that's there, the more likely they would be willing to communicate. Like Zach mentioned, find out common beliefs, common interests, things like that. You know, I think those are all ways. I don't know if there's a perfect answer to that, but you know, just ideas. Anybody else? Okay. We talked about relationship. I don't remember if somebody mentioned this or not. Attitude. What is your attitude? And a lot of these are kind of interwoven. What is your attitude whenever you approach that interaction, or when you're in that interaction? Am I contacting this person out of selfish motivations, like what can I get out of this? Or am I more concerned about how can I help this person? What can I do for this person, you know, to assist them or to encourage them? How about time? Time's a big one. Oh, I'm sorry, Aaron, go for it.
I was actually just gonna go on some degree of attitude, and kind of unemotion. But at the same time, there are things where, like you mentioned time, I was about to say, the conversations I am willing to have with somebody at 6 o'clock when I show up to my job versus the conversations I'm willing to have at 11 or 12, is much different.
Is that because energy drink consumption? Yeah. Okay.
But it's, you know, the mood that you're in, and maybe even your ability to think at that time definitely affects what you conversate about and how your tone sounds, even if you don't intend it to sound a certain way. If you're irritated with something, you can do your best to sound like you're not irritated in a conversation, but I think even if you're not irritated at that person, some of that's probably still in their show. And that's just something you have to be aware of when you have a conversation. It's like, okay, let me see if I can wall it off for a moment to have this conversation with this person. No, I'm not mad at them at all.
That's a good point. I think, so definitely what physical time it is, but also how much time am I willing to give to this person, right? Am I in a rush? You know, am I trying to run into where the store real quick, grab a cup of coffee before I get to work and I'm running late, and somebody, you know, maybe they're standing at the door and you can tell that they're down on their luck or whatever, and they want to have a conversation with you and you're like, hey, yep, and just move right past them. You know, we're not too willing to give of our time there, whereas, so that interaction is going to be pretty poor, right? We're not going to have a positive influence on somebody we're not willing to show that they're not worth our time, right? We have to let people know that they are valuable. One way we let people know they're valuable to us is how much time we're willing to give to them. And you know, if we show them that, yeah, I am running late, I am in a hurry, but I'm going to stop and have, you know, maybe not a 20-minute conversation with you, but you know, sit there and genuinely listen to you and show that I care what you have to say, you know, and give of that time. That will obviously lead to a better result in your interaction. Randy?
Brian McAllister, a few weeks ago when he was here, he made the point on marriage in the very end of self-control, and I think that has a lot to do with your interactions with people.
Self-control, yeah.
Mine is,
Yeah.
my worst negativity is my anger.
Mm-hmm.
If I can put that on the back burner and deal better with people that way, that's a big factor.
Sure. Yeah, I think all of us, for sure. It's a good one.
Steve, I think a big interaction is, if you see a need, just do it. Don't
Okay.
wait to be asked.
Okay?
Sometimes people, you see that they're going through something or have a challenge, and if you just step in and just do it without being asked, I think goes tremendously.
Okay, yeah, that's a good point. Sometimes I don't know why this is, but like, we would kind of want to tippy-toe around it, you know, like helping people for some reason. Would you agree?
Yeah, because you don't want to be overbearing.
Yeah. Or pry or overstep your bounds or whatever. Yeah. So yeah, that's a good point, Don. You see a need and you just act on it. Don't sit there and, I think if we do overstep our bounds, hopefully that person would let us know. So yeah, good point, Don. Time. How about location? Where we are whenever we encounter these people has an impact on how the interaction will go. You know, Dan and Zach have both been on mission trips, and I'm sure based off where you're at in those countries, that can kind of influence how you're able to interact with people. Any examples coming to mind? Not to put you on the spot, but
No, you're fine. So the first time I went to India, there was a major culture shock for me in a lot of ways. And I didn't want to be the cause of rudeness or to offend anyone. So I kind of just followed the lead. That was first time I was traveling with my father and my uncle, so trying to follow their lead and not try to take the lead, I guess, if that makes sense. And then one of the biggest things that probably would be surprising to us as Americans is when you're invited into someone's home to share a meal with them, you don't really share the meal. The host family stands the whole time and serves you to make sure that you have everything that you want. And then they clear the table, give you like a coffee or a tea for after dinner. They leave you for a few minutes. They go into the kitchen with their family. They eat very quickly, and then we all get into a common room to talk. And that was a big shock to me, obviously, culturally speaking. And I invite someone to my house for a meal. I'm not going to stand and serve them and make sure they have all their wants and needs during that meal. Sorry, Donald, not doing that.
so he's not coming over anymore.
We as Americans want to sit at the table with them and converse and so forth, but that's not their culture. And so that was kind of a surprise. And then I also found out very quickly, my dad and I have a really good relationship, and we tease each other. I tease my father. And first time I did that, our host, my translator, he said, "Oh no, that's your father. You don't do that. You don't make fun of him. You don't tease him." And I'm like, "Oh, okay." So that offended him. Where my dad and I have that rapport. Where he knows I'm joking, and he, if I'm not doing that, he thinks something's wrong. And if he's not doing that to me, I think something's wrong. So that was hard. So my smart aleck comments had to be kind of swallowed and not said. I remember the first time after I came back from the trip, I kind of needed to vent some of those things I haven't been able to say. And people were like, "Wow, are you okay?" I'm like, "Yeah, I just haven't been able to do this for a few weeks." So kind of making fun of people, that's kind of my thing.
Stepped on the plane and got it all out on the way back. Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
Aaron does it.
I heard a chuckle come from this
I
side.
heard the idea of teasing and making fun of people close with, like, ooh, I get in trouble. I have to ask now though, and this honestly is something that can go back to just conversations, knowing what people are familiar with, is sarcasm. Dan, if you don't mind me jumping past Steve just directly to you,
All right.
is sarcasm something that exists in India? Do they like have a
They
concept
joke
of that?
That's good. I know we've discussed this communication already, but the part I wanted to hit on communication, I did have body language down. That's very important, but also listening. Listening is a huge part of communication, and a huge part in how successful the communication will be. So, considering how well we listen. Interest level or our sincerity in that person kind of gets back to attitude and motivation for that encounter or interaction. The people you're in the company of, and a lot of times, or what brought that thought to mind is a lot of times Jesus not only impacted or affected the person he was directly impacted or speaking with or interacting with, but also the entire crowd around him, you know. So have to consider that. And then something Jesus was phenomenal at that I think probably no matter how hard we struggle or strive to not let it impact us is he was blind to status. And we'll see that a little bit today in this passage we're going to read here in Luke. So Jesus was so effective in his encounters that people literally began to follow him, drop everything they had and follow him. What is it that he did, in your opinion, that caused him to be so effective or so attractive to people? His compassion, okay. Yes, yeah, that'd be a huge one, yeah. Knowledgeable, yeah. Yeah, he preached with authority, yeah, right? And that is very convincing. When you're not wondering if it's right, when you're telling it, yeah, that's a very good one. Any others?
Probably just his overall humility and his
Okay.
demeanor. Like, he'll perform a miracle and then be the guy that just like goes off and prays and
Mm-hmm.
doesn't draw any, it's
Right.
not about attention for him, and I think that would be the biggest wear off to, I mean, think about the apostles, like that wear off on them, and obviously they proclaimed his name because of it, so I think that had a big impact on them.
Sure.
Specifically, but.
Yep. Those are all good ones.
Jesus met people where they were.
Yeah.
And made their lives better from interaction with him. He was respectful and strong, and you know, he was a straight shooter. He could talk. The Pharisees, you know, he would call them out, and you know, they might have gotten it, but people, you know, respected, I think, his authority. You know, and he had a tenderness. He kind of had the best of everything you can think of to communicate that we could strive for.
Mm-hmm.
Just observing him with people, I think he could make a person, no matter how big the crowd was, if he was healing someone, it was like that was the only person there.
Yeah. Yeah.
I can kind of see that.
Yeah. I like the met people where they were at. That's spot on, and I think very, very good reason. Any others? Okay. Let's flip over to Luke. Luke 7. Again, we'll be looking at verses 11 through 17. Just to kind of set the stage and what's going on in the previous chapter or two here. In chapter 6, Jesus picks his apostles, and he also has a large crowd that's interested in him for various reasons. Maybe it is because their physical needs can be met. Maybe it is because you know, they have recognized him as the spiritual leader and want to follow him in that regard. Maybe a little bit of both, but he also has a large crowd following him. Jesus preached a sermon, and then he was in Capernaum and healed the servant of the centurion. And then after that, we pick up in our context. So he's leaving Capernaum, and he's headed to Nain, the town of Nain. Just a little background on that journey, because I do think it kind of plays in a little bit into his interaction Capernaum was located on the north shore of the Sea of Galilee. Nain was located southwest of the Sea of Galilee, approximately 30 miles apart. Nain sat 700 feet above sea level, so this would have been an elevated climb to get to Nain. I was going to ask Lane about that. I know he just went on a huge stair climb. Was it last week? Earlier this week. So how fun it is to walk uphill. They estimated this would have been like a 1 to 2 day journey, and Nain was known as a Galilean farming village. Nothing real special or notable about the town. And our passage here takes place as Jesus is arriving here. So he's just completed this journey. You think about, in our day, we have a lot easier trips and journeys, but when you finally make it to your destination, you're kind of glad you want to be there and take a breather. But here Jesus is just arriving, and then we have this interaction. Is there anybody who would like to read verses 11 through 17 for us out of chapter 7? Thank you.
Now it happened the day after that he went into the city called Nain. Many of his disciples went with them, and a large crowd. When he came near the gate of the city, behold, a dead man was being carried out, the only son of his mother, and she was a widow. A large crowd from the city was with her. When the Lord saw her, he had compassion on her, and said to her, "Do not weep." Then he came and touched the open coffin, and those who carried him stood still. And he said, "Young man, I say to you, arise." So he who was dead sat up, began to speak, and he presented him to his mother. And fear came upon all, and they glorified God, saying, "A great prophet has risen up among us, and God has visited his people." And this report about him went throughout all of Judea and all the surrounding region.
Thank you, Donald. So pretty short passage, but I think we'd all agree Jesus had a huge impact on this widow during his interaction with her. Would you not agree? What about Jesus afforded him this opportunity to impact the widow? Bill?
In reading all this is the second one where Jesus actually raised somebody from the dead. I'm kidding. Lazarus, I don't know if Lazarus was the first or this guy, but anyway, there's two of them that he raised from the dead, and that had to have a large impact on this guy's mother when he's dead and ready to be buried, and then he's up walking around and talking. That if that didn't put fear into you at that time, it should when you read it.
Mm-hmm.
That you know that he has that amount of power to put you where he wants.
Could Jesus have easily walked right past this woman? What was it about Jesus that afforded him the opportunity or the what made him choose to have an interaction with this woman? Yeah. Yep. Is that what you were going to say? Is that what you're going to say?
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say.
Absolutely. The passage tells us he felt compassion for her, right? What? Go ahead, Bill.
Yeah, whenever this large crowd was there, and they didn't give Jesus the glory of being this, they classified him as a prophet or something,
Mm-hmm.
not being of God,
Mm-hmm.
but a man of God. There was a lot of prophets back at that time, and that's what they figured he was, a prophet.
Yeah.
Stephen, I heard somebody once describe compassion
Sure.
that's so Christ-based. I mean,
Absolutely. So it appears he did not have any background knowledge of this woman, didn't know her. So what would have led him to have this amount of compassion for her?
Back in chapter 5, he knew the reasoning in their heart, so it kind of makes you wonder if he, it's kind of an interesting concept, and you kind of can go down that rabbit hole, but just for the sake of not, the fact of him probably knowing what her heart was going through, and he was close to her, he wanted to fix it,
Sure.
Wanted to change it, I feel like if we were walking past people and we knew what people were thinking in their hearts, I think it would change our moods too. Maybe change our mindset, or it should. I think it would most. And sometimes it would be bad. We wouldn't want to know what they're thinking. And so it's like, if Jesus did know what she was thinking in her heart, well, obviously that would move him to compassion too. In the same instance as Luke 5. So that's kind of an interesting study there. Would be an in-depth study, but.
Yeah, good point.
I
Okay.
think we can't ignore the fact that the scripture says he saw her.
So, yeah.
He observed her first.
Mhm.
And that word saw in the original language means more than he saw, had sight of her with his eyes. It was a perception. Sometimes we'll say something like, we'll use the word see in our English language for, do you understand? Do you see what I'm saying? And really we mean, are you perceiving what I'm trying to get across to you? Well, Jesus, when he saw her, all those things Zach was just talking about, he felt compassion. And good lady said about having our insides moved. That's literally what the Greek word means. It's an inward feeling. It's your inward parts are moved. We get that feeling in our stomach sometimes when we get bad news, and sometimes when we get good news, we get that sort of queasy feeling, if you will, in your stomach. And that's not a good description, but I think you know what I mean. You feel it from inside. You feel it in your gut, we'll say. And sometimes we'll use that phrasing. What does your gut tell you to do? So it's sort of a basic emotion that we have, but it's a deep one. And so we should take a lesson from Jesus, and when we see people for the first time, it needs to be, let's try to perceive what we can about this person, especially if our purpose in meeting anyone is eventually to show them Christ in some way, whether that's through our actions, our words, or whatever it is. Then we've got to perceive them as a precious soul that Jesus went to the cross for. So Jesus saw her and felt that compassion.
Very good. Both very good points. Appreciate it. Yeah. So, passage tells us he sees her weeping. I think we can all relate. If we see someone weeping at a funeral, I think we can have compassion for that person. Jesus probably also understood. Maybe he didn't know that she was a widow, or that she had no other family to provide for her, but this widow was going to be in a very difficult situation physically and have really no ability to provide for herself or to be provided for. She's a widow. Her husband has passed. She has no other sons to help support her. And unfortunately, some of the stuff I was reading said people would use these desperate situations for these women to exploit them, and take advantage of them because they were kind of trapped with no way to really support themselves. And then one final thought I had on this, on why Jesus would have specifically compassion on this woman. Do you think it's possible Jesus saw Mary in that woman? Do you think Jesus reflected or thought about my own mother is going to be in her position one day. I don't know. We don't know. We don't know the reasoning. Like Zach said, it'd be a super interesting study to understand what about Jesus made him have compassion on her. It wasn't a rare thing. He had compassion on a lot of people, but we can definitely understand how that could possibly play a role in it as well. And I think that's a point that can help us, as Dan was saying, when we approach people, we need to see them as the precious soul, and whenever maybe they're struggling with something or dealing with something, maybe focus or think back to the times when we've been in those positions, you know, and think about the mercy and compassion we had shown to us or wished we had shown to us, and make sure we should give that same mercy or compassion to that person.
Steve, I was
Yep.
thinking about some people are naturally can perceive things better than others,
Yeah.
right? So
Yeah.
that's a big thing. Like some people notice things and some people don't. Just from a natural perspective, but something maybe we should be working on is being better at noticing
Yeah.
and paying attention to things. If it's not our natural instinct, or if our husband or wife is better at it, then they can point that out to us.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people, there's a lot of memes about men not paying attention, but that's not always the case. Sometimes it's the other way around, that the men are better at perceiving than the women. But if we're paying attention to that and our spouse points that out, or someone in our life that is good at that, that can help us make sure that needs are met too. Something that we pointed out in the church, if we see a need in the church, if there's someone that's perceiving that or seeing that more, to make sure that it gets taken care of, even if they're not the one able to do that, or bring that to the right people.
Sure.
So we just need to be more perceptive of what's
Sure.
going on, and then that way we can be better stewards of God's law, and taking care of widows,
Yep.
those without fathers and mothers, or just the people in general that are of the household of faith.
Yeah, that's a good point. Very good point. Looks like we're about to wrap up here, so I'm going to go ahead and stop on this point, and we will pick up here next week. If you want to go ahead and continue looking at this section of Scripture here, Luke 7:11 through 17, we've got some more that we'll talk about next week. And then also, if you want to start looking at Jesus' interaction with Nicodemus in John chapter 3, that'll be the next one we start looking at. So really appreciate all the participation and the comments. I enjoyed it. So thank you for your time.